This is the beginning of my podcast, Scars Tell Stories. My first episode I recorded yesterday on my way home from Houston. It's just the reflection of my Pro MMA debut I had a few days ago. I lost the fight, but it was a good one. A lot of lessons learned. And I still feel good about it. I'm still processing it, and that's a lot of the reason I chose to record yesterday. It's a little noisy. I will not lie to you guys, but that was mainly because I just wanted to capture my state of mind immediately. I didn't want to sleep on it too much, and kind of wanted to show you guys my process of dealing with a loss like that, an MMA loss, something that important, because in hindsight and in my entire week, win or lose, that fight wasn't very important. There's a lot of other things going on with the world, my family, me. It's a good time. I wouldn't say a good time, but this is important time in my life. A lot of things happen around these dates. I speak of it a little bit in the podcast, but as I continue making episodes, they won't always be about this kind of stuff. I want to show the kind of lessons I've learned, the life that I've had. A lot of people don't know about how I grew up, where I come from, things of that nature. I don't even know. I'm starting to learn where I've come from and the people I come from. And as I explore that, I just want to share that with everybody else. Just hope everybody enjoys it, and whatever happens, happens. I don't think I've ever had such a good fight camp. It was a lot of preparation. I got good coaches. I had a lot of good cardio, good support. It was fun. Thank you to everyone who supported. Thank you for everyone who came out and watched, who comes to the gym, Wolf Den, some of the other gyms I train at, Olympics, Revive, aka or TKA with Shelby. It was a lot. It took a lot of people to help prepare for the fight, prepare for the camp. Everything went great. Didn't really have any injuries. The weight came down very well. I feel like I'm in the best shape I've ever been in, which is weird to think, being 31. But no, I was in good shape. I ran a lot, rode the bike a lot, sparred a lot, had really good training partners. I fought a really good opponent. It was fun. It was a really good pro debut, a lot of experience. It was a very intimate setting, I feel like. It was a smaller venue than what I'm used to, which is weird. I think it's very rare to go from an amateur fight, an amateur title fight, that was bigger than your pro debut. My amateur title fight was in a pretty good sized arena. There's a pretty good crowd. There's a great picture on my Facebook, the profile picture, not a profile, what's it called? The cover photo. That's me in the cage with all the people watching. That was a lot of fun. Physically, it was like that, but this one still felt so much bigger with everybody there. I had a lot of family there. That was fun. I had a lot of family I'd never known there. So I guess I should back up with that. Some people know, not everyone quite knows, that I didn't really grow up with my real father. I had a stepdad growing up. I called him dad because he'd been around for so long and he never made me feel like anything else but his son. With that being said, I still had an older sister that I never really knew about until I was about 21 years old is when we met. And I never really got introduced to that entire side of the family. But recently, within the past 2 months, me and her have been talking more, connecting more. And we've also both been connecting with that side of the family. Earlier this year, I met my grandfather for the first time, which that was a surreal moment. Meeting him and some cousins. And in those efforts, they figured out I was a professional fighter and I was making my debut soon, so they all came to watch. And it was fun because I had a lot of family. They just got tickets, maybe 40 plus family members, I'd say. What do you think?
Somewhere around there.
40, 45 just family members. And of course, friends and teammates, training partners, they were all there as well. some of these family members, I didn't know. I had met them for the first time after my fight or right before the fight. So it was a very emotional day. It was a very emotional week. I mean, anyone who's been on social media has probably had an emotional week, if I'm being honest. It's been a lot going on. And if you know me, you know this is a very emotional time for us. And things that I've done in my life really circle around some of these dates that we've been passing up this past week. And they're important landmarks to me. And this is just another one around those times, you know. A lot of things happen around this part of September in different years. And they've really shaped who I am and maybe some of our family members. And even though I may have lost the fight, I felt good after. You know, I fought. It was a good fight. I felt like it was a pretty good fight. I don't know yet if it was really a good fight. I'm still kind of processing what happened. I can remember a couple highlights and moments and ways I felt. I definitely got tired after the first round, you know, which is weird to say after all the cardio, but I think just with everything going on and the emotional strain, I think it really got to me. I'm not using it as an excuse for why I lost. I think I just had a good fight. We had a good opponent. He definitely was tired too. I kept it going, and I wasn't gonna quit. It was fun though. Me and Tyler had a good time hitting each other in the face. We exchanged some words a couple times. Nothing mean. It was fun banter back and forth. I think he has the same mindset I do, where we're just here to see, you know, who's the better fighter, who can, you know, have fun, no hard feelings. We don't gotta hate each other to go compete. We're not fighting, you know, for anything of that much importance. It's just a sport, it's competition, and when the bell's over, you know, that's it. It's fun. It was a great time. It was a good experience. But like I said, what was more important was everything after. Meeting aunts, uncles, cousins, and really getting to see that side of the family. Especially growing up. And it's not that I was never, I don't want to say I was never included or felt like I was excluded in some of my family growing up, but I could always tell that I was different, you know, and not just with them, but, you know, just people around me. You know, growing up in some of the places I grew up in, it really would stick out and would make me question things, and in a way pushed me to do better, because I always felt like I wasn't good enough, so I would always try harder and try to be seen and I guess prove my worth or value. And in a way that's why I'm good at what I do, or some of the things that I do in my mind, but it's not always the funnest way to get there. You know, there's other ways to get that kind of motivation. But to have that kind of support now and to see everybody, even as old as I am, it's been fun. It's been great. And it definitely meant a lot more than the fight. Even if I would have won, I think it still would have meant more to me that everyone was there. And with my older sister, we talked about that too. Like, it brought both sides of that family together to come see and talk to each other, because they were there to watch me fight, so that was fun. And they invited us to Thanksgiving, so we're going to bring our kids out there. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And it's going to be an interesting experience going through that, you know. I used to think I was too old to meet some of those family members or have a relationship, but that's definitely not the case. And I guess I want to talk about that too more, because there's other people that I feel deal with that kind of thing, where they don't really have a relationship with somebody in their family for whatever reason, and maybe this will motivate you or get you to think, second guess something like that, and talk to them. Because I've had other friends with similar experiences where maybe they stayed away from family because of what they thought was true, and once they got to know them and figure out who they really were, that a lot of those stories they heard may have been misleading or completely false to begin with. And you're avoiding a great relationship off of something that might not even be real. So I guess I would say that just to say, you know, don't let time or excuses keep you away from people. I would definitely reach out and see what you can do, and you never know what would come out of it, because motivates me to want to do more. Like, I lost, but I feel good. I'm already ready for my next fight. I can't wait to schedule another one, especially with that promotion. They're going to compete there a lot, you know. It was a fun, like I said, it was an intimate moment because it was a smaller venue. It was in a gym. Don't get me wrong, it was a beautiful gym. It was great. They did a great job, Paradigm Sports. It was a cool gym. We all talked about it the whole time. But to be in such a little spot and see all those people, it was fun. You know, being able to be in the ring and look around and you see that many people there that came to watch you. It's a surreal experience, and I enjoyed it. And it's crazy to think about those kind of things because I've competed my whole life. You know, high-level football, soccer, you know, going into other sports, track, and it's still, to this day, I don't think I've ever had that kind of experience with family and sports and everything going on. And it just felt good. And I can't wait to do it again. It's exciting. It's almost like a reminder of how much life I still have to live. You know, I'm only 31. I could still do a lot more. I'm gonna do a lot more. And I just can't wait to see how far that goes. It's been a lot of fun. I had a great fight camp. I say that because I always hate seeing UFC fighters and Bellator fighters talk about they lost because of this, that, and the other. Sometimes you just lose. And that's part of it. It's okay. Like, not very many people get to go undefeated, especially in a sport like this where one mistake, you know, can cost you the entire match. And in a sport like this where there is no seasons that reset your stats, it's not like, you know, Tom Brady lost tons of games, but every season he got to start 0-0 again. You know, that's one of the things with MMA fighters, is it doesn't start over. Like, I'm gonna have to keep that loss forever. And that's why some people, I think, hang on to them so much longer, because you don't get as many opportunities to lose, and you have to see it all the time. But in my mind, that's kind of why I do it, and I've talked about that. I want to fight, but I want to be a competent coach. I want to be able to speak from experience. I want to be able to tell my fighters I know what it's like to be there for 15 minutes and not have fun, and I've done that part already. So now I gotta go tell them what it's like to be in there for 15 seconds after winning a good fight, you know? Things like that. But anyway, the fight camp was great. I lost a lot of weight. The day I took the fight was 198, and I had maybe about 10 weeks of training to get down to 175. And it made me nervous because one of my last MMA fights earlier this year, I didn't do so well in a weight cut, ended up getting really, really sick, it felt like I destroyed my body, and I couldn't make it. Ended up having to drop out, having kidney issues. And it really made me second guess on what I was going to do, if I was going to stay in the weight class, continue fighting, what I wanted to do. And I just buckled down and was like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. And that's exactly what I did. What happened? Did a lot of running. What helped a lot, I think, in this fight camp was cardio and nutrition. That's something I'm getting into a lot. I did a lot of my own nutrition training. I've done a lot more into, or paying more attention into what I'm doing with my nutrition, putting in my body, what I'm putting out as far as cardio. It wasn't easy. It's definitely an easier thing. I tell a lot of my fighters, if fighting is something you want to do, I promise you, making weight is way harder than learning how to fight. Learning how to fight, to me, is one of the easiest parts about fighting. The second part is you have to be game. You know, not everyone is willing to take the pain and the hits and keep going. And then after that, you know, making weight, that's very difficult. It's not easy to do. Making weight, bouncing back, being able to compete, it's fun. That all goes into the fight camp and preparation. And I think that's why I was able to get so low. And if you don't know where I fought at, you know, like I said, I started at 198, ended up fighting at 175, and the weight came off easy. I felt fantastic. I'll probably do, this will eventually be a podcast. It is a podcast. And eventually I'll probably do an entire breakdown of how I cut weight. I would like to video that to show people, how I'm able to cut weight and bounce back. Some of my friends who get to see more of the process are always impressed with it. That's why I would like to show other people how it works and maybe help some other fighters figure out how to do it themselves. Because like I said, I fought at 175 or weighed in at 175. But after, getting with my nutrition and doing all that right, I was able to bounce back to pretty close to 190. So when I was stepping into the cage, I was probably about 190 pounds. So about what I am right now. But feeling good. I felt really great. And during the fight, during the warm-up, it was a great experience. I got to do a lot of cross-training in my fight camp. Like I said, I was getting to train a lot with Shelby Fauché out there in Beaumont. And a lot of the guys out there at Revive, they helped a lot, doing a lot of sparring. I'm going to continue to do the same for them. We're going to keep fighting. Eventually I'll get my next fight. We're going to see where we go from there. The fight camp was good though. I had a lot of fun training that way. I think I know where I messed up in this fight, and I think I know what to make better. I think I got too into my head, and I just didn't do what I was supposed to do. As far as I didn't do my setups I wanted. I'd worked a lot of striking in the camp, and I think when I really started to zone in and see where I was and everyone there, I kind of just went blank and started fighting.
You did.
And I think
instinct.
I did instinct, and then my instincts were doing great, and I felt a moment of hesitation. And I don't want to say this is why I lost. I just understand this is what kind of made me mess up, and it goes into preparation for the fight. But wall work on ropes was kind of weird. I didn't really kind of understand how to get off in normal cage fights and in training. When someone puts me in the corner like that, I'm able to turn them and go into a cage wall in a certain line of defenses that I do. And being on ropes just made it kind of weird where I didn't have the leverage to turn around, but he didn't have the leverage to bring me down. So there was kind of moments in the fight where you saw me just staring at him while he had a body lock, and I would normally go through my defenses, and then I would have to start switching things up. Even when I tried to roll out on the bottom, I would normally run up the wall on the cage. I couldn't do that. Again, not why I lost, definitely bigger reasons why I lost, but I think these are just more things that got me out of my headspace, and that's what I also feel like I struggle with in jiu-jitsu, is I'm losing to people not because they're better than me, but because I'm either not on the right thinking track, I'm underestimating myself, or I'm just not in the moment. And that's part of, fighting. And then goes into where you hear people like, Joe Rogan, higher level UFC guys talk about fight IQ. That's kind of what they mean. It's not just knowing how to throw a punch or a kick. It's knowing when to throw specific punches and kicks and defenses, and understanding where you are. And that's a big part of martial arts, going from cages to rings to open fields. It's different. And you have to be ready for those kind of things. And those are things I have to prepare for more in my fight camps. And, becoming a professional, that's part of it. And it being such a big deal and a dream of mine to just become a professional athlete maybe had a lot to do with it. Kind of like I mentioned before, grew up not knowing my biological father, having somebody there that I did call dad, and I appreciate him more than I'll ever know. But a part of me since I was a kid has always wanted to be a professional athlete. So this debut meant a lot to me. And it almost played out how I thought it would as a kid, but different, when I was a kid, I had thoughts of being a professional football player, at one point a soccer player, a boxer, an MMA fighter, and I started to notice that it was less because of me actually wanting to play that sport and more that I knew my biological father was out there, and I wanted him to see how good I could do without him. That I didn't need him to do something that great, to be that great. And in a way, I was right. I didn't need him. I had a great father. But I always wanted him to see me there on TV and see what he missed out on, and the whole family. But it didn't really turn out that way, because instead of it becoming a show off or look at what I did, it became like a reuniting of the family, like an ignition of like our relationship, or the beginning of what our relationship's gonna be, and that it's not that kind of a bad thing like I used to. Meeting these family members, I start to realize that it's not too late. I'm not too old to meet some of these cousins and aunts and uncles, and it's been great being able to see that and have a different mindset, you know? And, you know, he may not have still seen me there, but everybody else did, and all the people that mattered did, and that was what was important to me. And maybe that's why I'm not so upset about losing. I want to get better. I didn't like losing, but as soon as I was done, I got to meet so many people, and you know, after meeting people like that, it's kind of hard to feel like you lost, you know, especially because when I was a kid, like I said, I had a great father figures in my life, but my dad, you know, he did everything he could to work to help us get out of bad spots. We weren't in great neighborhoods. He wanted a better life for us than he had, and he did that. He did give us a better life. He moved us away and was able to give us everything we needed, and it was great.
I think you felt like you had to like prove yourself to like your biological dad. Like fighting was your way of like proving yourself, and I think like maybe you thought you had to win, and I think like losing may have almost even been better, because they didn't just support you because you're cool and you won this fight. Like they still supported you even after you lost, and like everyone was so excited and like proud of you regardless, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I think that made a big difference. That's what people want to see. Say it. How do you feel?
Good. You know, I wanted to prove that I was enough, and I found out that I was, and I didn't have to win to do that. My introduction and inspiration for fighting was because I lost my grandfather, my mother's dad, at a very young age. And I felt that was traumatizing, because I was so young that I didn't really miss not having a dad, because I always had that father figure through him. And when I lost him, I felt like it was hard. But to come out of that fight and see my dad and my grandpa that I didn't know, I think meant more to me than winning. And I think if I would have won, it might not have felt as good, because I think in a way I would have used that as an excuse for why they like me, because I'm a good MMA fighter. But expect that much love from someone I've never met.
A lot of someone's.
More than one. There's multiple people I'd never met before. And what's wild is they're not even like, to seem to me, they weren't even MMA fans. They don't watch fighting. They don't do that. You know, some of them probably did. They enjoyed it. They loved, you know, not any more than the average person. But they didn't go there to watch fights. They went there to watch me. And I think that's what meant a lot. You know, there was more than them. There's friends from all over the place, friends from different gyms. You know, it was a great feeling. Which, for someone like me, it's strange because I feel like I've accomplished so many things in my life, and I've still never had that kind of support. And I have from my family that I've grown up with. Don't get me wrong, they do support me. They do everything, but it seems like that support tripled in a matter of days. You know, my family grew so much in these past few weeks, meeting so many new members of my family and seeing how alike we are is crazy to see where I came from, you know. And it's not to be any sort of disrespectful, but growing up I've always kind of felt like an outsider because I was the only one in my family who was half black, and a lot of people didn't really know how to deal with me. Like as a kid, I remember going to barbershops and they don't know how to cut my hair, and I don't even have that crazy like hair like that, but still, even little things like that I would notice. And then to meet people, and it's like we have the same personalities. My grandpa was funny because it's like, that's why, I mean, I'm 31 and I get ID'd because I look so young, and after meeting him, I get it. He's in his 90s and he looks like he's, what, 50? 60?
60s.
But he went to my fight at 90 years old. You know, he got out of the house, was able to go watch, and he had a great time.
He did have a bedtime.
He had to go home. He couldn't go eat with us, but the fact that he came out and watched it just meant a lot.
Like no cane, no walker.
Yeah, no cane, no walker on both his feet.
It's really
came in there to watch me fight, and I can't wait to do it again.
I definitely don't want to like discredit your family because like they're amazing and they do so much for us, but like they are 50% of you, and I feel like and I feel like I still kind of figure that out because like my dad wasn't really involved either, but like you finding out like who the other 50% is, I feel like, I don't know how to say what I'm trying to say, but it's like a missing piece of you that you're like finding.
Yeah.
It's not to discredit like your family, but
yeah, I don't want to discredit anyone that ever raised me, because I think I turned out good. I turned out like someone who you could maybe look up to or want to be like. And I couldn't be this way without the family I have. And I feel like this was more of like closure. But at the same time, it wasn't like an ending closure. It was more of like
a sense of peace.
Yes, it was more of like I didn't have to hold on to that. I didn't have to avoid it. That I could have those relationships. I could go out there and I have an amazing support system, no matter what. Because that's really why I do this. I mean, I love it. I love fighting, but I want to be inspirational. I want to be able to help people. I want to be able to do things. I want to be able to get my name out there, to get my voice out there, because I think I have some good things to say every now and then, and I understand this is a way for me to do it. I feel like I'm good at fighting, and I feel like I can get so much better, And it's because of the people around me, my family, my friends, my training partners, my teammates, and it only keeps growing. And that's why I love this sport.
I think you should also talk about like how it's important to understand where you come from. Like I think that's important to you for sure. I think it should be important to a lot of people, and I think that's another reason like this does mean so much to you. Is like understanding your background, like understanding who you are. You know.
Yeah.
Like, and I think it's important for Kyler to understand too.
Yeah, I think a big part of why I do want these relationships with this side of my family is because I don't want my daughter to feel the way I did growing up. And I can see it already because no offense to anyone else again on my family or her sides, but a lot of us have even Madison, my wife, who's a hairstylist, has issues with Kyler's hair, I would say. And a lot of that just, in my mind, is not like a skill thing. It's a culture thing. Like, we didn't grow up with that kind of hair that Kyler does. And we don't really know how to treat it the same way that side of the family would. And I want her to understand that. And if you've never seen my daughter, you would get why I really want her to understand, because she looks just like me, but about 15 shades lighter. She's very, very light-skinned. You know, that comes from me having a lot of Spanish or Spaniard in my blood and being half black, but that doesn't take it away from her. And I want her to know that she is part Hispanic, part black, and really embrace that, because I don't feel like I ever got to growing up, you know. And it wasn't because they didn't show us that side, but there was reasons where, you know, like our grandfather really didn't want us to learn as much Spanish, because when he moved here, they had a lot of issues coming in because they could barely speak English. And a lot of people, you know, even nowadays will get discriminated against because they can't speak English. And they were scared that would happen to us. They wanted us to learn English so we didn't have the same struggles that they did finding jobs or, you know, being a part of America and being here where we want to be. And as much as, you know, we appreciate that, the thought, it's like we missed out on so much. And we are learning more and doing more, but I don't want that to happen to my daughter, because I want her to be proud of what she is and who she is, and understand every side of the family, you know, that the white side too, like she is white, she is Hispanic, she is black. She needs to understand the cultures that come with that. And I wouldn't say responsibility, but I feel like it is a responsibility to understand where you came from, who you are.
Well, and that's kind of like where my head was at, is like understanding that like gives you a better sense of self-awareness.
Yeah, because understanding that does help you understand yourself, your kids, your family, what you need. People have always said that, you know, America is a melting pot. And I've always thought that was kind of weird. I find my America to be more like a charcuterie board, you know? Because in a melting pot, everything melts together. It's all one thing, and that's not what we are. You know, everything is individual. You know, we come here, you know, a big part of why I wanted to serve is so people could do things like that. That we're coming to America, yes, to be American, but to also share our cultures from other countries. You know, there's so many places in Texas, especially where we're from, in Houston, Pasadena. If you blindfolded somebody and dropped them in the middle of that city, they would almost be convinced they're in Mexico. And there's so much Spanish culture there, and that's what's important. You know, when you go to different parts of the country, that happens, and you get to see that. And I don't think we understand, you know, how fortunate we are to be this close to those kind of populations and see those cultures. Because I have friends all over the country, they complain about, you know, they don't get the same quality Mexican food up north that they do here. And it's like, yeah, we don't migrate that high up, you know, but that's what makes America great in my mind. Things like that, or you can experience these other cultures because they are accepted here. And I think that's something we can't forget. You know, we teach our children to not see color, but at the same time, we need to respect it and cultures and other people and where they come from, because that's why we're here, to experience each other as human beings.
You have to see it to be able to appreciate it.
Yes.
It took me a lot of years of being with you to understand culture, and I feel like white people are just like, we don't see color, and like it's ignorant. Like, I think we need to see it.
I agree. I think we need to definitely address people of other cultures and try to understand them
And learn it.
and learn how they work instead of just blowing people off because they're a different place or race. You know, because the same thing goes with, you know, I feel like culture, religion, people. In our area, it is mainly, you know, Hispanic, but you go to other parts of the country, there's a lot of other cultures. You know, you go to places like New York or California, they have all kinds of people there. And it's amazing. Dallas, we go to Dallas a lot, and it's crazy how much you can find these like mom and pop places from all over the world, and they moved here from there, and you get to experience that culture. You know, that's what, maybe not everyone, but that's what I fought for. You know, that's what we did in the military. That's why I wanted to join, to protect those rights for those people, to not have to come here and change completely who they are, but embrace, you know, you can be here and still have Mexican cultures or black cultures or however you want to raise your kids, you know. I think that's a very important part of being American. And I say that a lot, and I've always considered myself American, and I know this might trigger some people, like, I've always hated the term African American or Mexican American. It seemed racist to me because we're all American. Like, why do I have to be Mexican American? Why do you have to be African American? Why do white people get to be the only Americans? You know, and
I mean, we're not even from America.
Exactly, and with, you know, with everyone coming here to be American, I feel like we really need to do away with some of those other labels. Not to say that you can't be proud of that, like you should be proud to be Mexican, but at the same time, as someone who, you know, signed up for the military, United States Navy, when we were there, we weren't white, we weren't black, we weren't male or female, we were sailors. Same thing with Marines, we were Marines, we were all there they were Marines, I was a sailor. We were all there, you know, with a common goal, a common purpose, driving for the same kind of life for everybody. And I don't see why we don't do that as civilians. You know, I think if we looked at each other all as Americans, you know, things like what have happened this past few weeks may not happen as much. And even if they did, maybe we'd be a little kinder to each other and not be picking sides and splitting each other up, because that's not what we wanted. You know, that's not what people who risk their lives for us to do. You know, we go out there and you go on deployments and do your thing to keep wars like that and fighting away from American soil. And it seems like we did that just so Americans can fight with each other, which to me is very frustrating to see.
What things?
What do you mean?
What things have happened this past week?
I mean, things with, like, you know, Charlie Kirk, I feel like is a very important topic right now. Beliefs aside, just people's reactions have bothered me a lot, you know. I'm not gonna say I agreed with 100% of everything he said, but I will say I respected almost everything he said because of how he would say it. I feel like a lot of people would take a lot of his comments and concerns out of context sometimes, or
I think they were offended and couldn't handle the embarrassment.
I believe so. I believe a lot of people would take offense to some of the things he said and not really listen to his opinions, because maybe it's just me. I feel like there's people that I could disagree with almost completely, and depending on how they said it to me, I would still have a level of respect to them. Because especially me, I enjoy, I wouldn't say heated debates, but I do enjoy like having conversations with people of different opinion. I don't know, I just feel like to a degree, you know, Charlie at least had that right. You know, when you stop talking about things, things get worse. And I think I've lived that, because there's been a long part of my life where I just don't talk. I just leave it all to myself. And things do get worse. I don't get better. People around me don't get better. And it doesn't help anybody. Whether it's disagreeable or not, you know, you can't not speak your mind. And it's wild, because I feel like that's something we teach our kids. You know, they see something, if something bothers them, to speak up. And our kids do a good job of that. And I think that's why something like that bothers me, because those are basic morals to me. You know, maybe not like his thought point was basic morals, but like speak your mind, speak out, be honest. Those are things that I would love, you know. Yes, communication, those are things I would love for my children to be able to do. And they do a very good job of it. And we try to do good. And it's a big reason why I try to better myself, because my kids are young, but I have very intelligent conversations with them. And I would hope that other adults do as well with their kids. We could definitely do better with our kids. I'm not the best. We do the best we can. We're constantly trying to improve parenting, how we raise them, how we talk to them. It's been fun. I'm going to continue posting like this. I'm going to make it into a podcast. Nothing specific. Not always going to be just me talking. I'll probably have other people I want to talk to. About everything. Life, fighting, raising kids, what it's like to be in my life. I want to document some of the things we do, some of these weight cuts, some of these fight stories. I have guys getting ready for fights. I'm training them. It'll be a lot of fun. I want to be able to explore that with people and get my voice out there. The name of the podcast is Scars Tell Stories. That's what it's going to be about. A lot of the scars that we have and what they can tell. Some of them are physical. Some of them can be emotional. Some of them people see. Sometimes they don't.